suspect. No feedback. Bust it. Me so loud, don't even think it. You can't purchase me for no reason, no trinkets. It ain't magic, I never disappear like Houdini. Cause mama said rock him like Google Mazzini. So I cold crush the brother that craft is true. The drink a brew. I'm public enemy number 2. I told
Peace! What up, Chief? I know that Chief probably doesn't watch my channel, man. You know, he's got better things to do. You know, he's a hustler, man. He's out doing his thing. Just so you know, in 2019, I hadn't worked for somebody else for 8 years. And I'm about to stay at home in the morning on a Tuesday and fire up a Suede cigarette in your guys' honor. You know what I mean? I love y'all. I love y'all. I couldn't love y'all more, you know, because 30 years, almost 30 years later, you're still inspiring me. Peace. DJ Cam. Jersey was blowing these motherfuckers out of the water back then, and the world didn't even know. You know what I mean? My father, Ed Livernoche, he had a real humble studio set up. I've already talked about other records made at our spot. You know what I mean? Shakespeare and the Last Empire, my old jam, Still Slam, School Hit, all that stuff. I got a video in the vinyl review section about those guys who did an album at my pop's studio. I didn't get into a lot of detail about it, but essentially, you know, my dad's studio was small. It wasn't much bigger than this, maybe twice the size of this little room I do my podcast from. And, you know, he had a 16-track recorder. He had a 1-inch tape. He had a reel-to-reel he could bounce it down to. They made vinyl records out of there, man. A lot of great hip-hop from Trenton came out of my dad, and from 1989 to like 1994. Chief, you know, along with like Shakespeare and the Last Empire, Chief is one of those ones that made it to vinyl, right? Because a lot of the artists that were just fantastic never made it to vinyl. You go and you listen to this Chief, Courageous Chief Warpath, you know, the whole fucking thing is crazy. Everything's crazy, right? It's crazy now, right? You know, Chief was about 25, 26. When I first met him, I was about 12 or 13 years old, something like that, 7th, 8th grade. And damn, man, this guy was just a fireball of talent. You know what I mean? Fireball of talent. Reggie Reg, fireball of talent with that MPC 60, right? Look up DJ Reggie Reg, man. There's a place called The Turntable out in Willingboro, New Jersey. And young artists like myself, you know, if your record was either at Ace Records, right in Trenton, you know, with Scoop, or your record was at The Turntable in Willingboro, it's like you made it. You might as well have been fucking Belle Biv and DeVoe if your shit was available there. So I'm like this little kid, man, 12 or 13. I got a real good rapport with the rappers coming around because, you know, I'm a funky little kid. I know how to rap a little bit back then, right? You know, 1989, 90, you know, I'm not great yet, but I'm not good. I'm all right. And somebody like Chief, and we're talking like a dark-skinned brother, you know what I mean? A dark-skinned brother in their 20s, so, you know, light years older than me, you know, 15, 12 years older than me or something. He comes marching in, right? And this motherfucker is like a hip-hop cartoon, right? You know, and, you know, peace, Chief, if you ever end up getting to you. I mean, no disrespect. I love you, man. But yeah, Chief's like a hip-hop cartoon. You're just a ball of energy, right? I'm chilling, and try to put yourself in my mindset at the time. You know, Nas is just coming out for the first time in Live at the Barbecue, right? You know, De La Soul is about to release De La Soul is Dead, their second album, right? You know, my mindset, you know, think about the summer. That's when this is being recorded and finished up at my dad's place, right? You know, so I'm sitting, it's a summertime. I got a little girlfriend I'm talking to on the phone sometimes, you know, from the school year. You know, we're still chatting over the summer, you know, and, you know, I'm working on my own stuff. And this guy's making this fucking New Jersey classic in the room next door to me. Because I'd moved, I tell stories about my bedroom being underneath the studio. By this time, my bedroom had moved like right next to the studio. So they're recording every single one of these joints. Go over the joint yourself. It's available. The full Warpath EP is available online. It'll even say where it was recorded and all that stuff and when. When the record was released, it was a local smash hit, right? So WPRB in Princeton, 103.3, you know, Tony D, G, you know, I don't want to go through Easy M. There's a whole bunch of people affiliated. Peace to all of you, you know, and, you know, Cam would be involved, and, you know, there'd be Zulu. There's a whole community of hip-hop heads, right, at this time around Trenton, New Jersey, and that's before I even mention like the whole Tony D, Poor Righteous Teachers, Boulevard Mossy, Suicide Posse, Almighty and KD. That's before I even mention all those guys. There's a whole hip-hop community you could talk about without even mentioning them who were giants and titans in the area in hip hop at the time, right? So Chief records this LP, and I get actually a chance to just build with this guy. I'm watching them march in with like 22s and shit, you know, 22s and Newport shorts. Back in the 90s, man, late 80s, early 90s, you're just smoking them right in the house like it's fucking nothing. And you know, I'm a little kid, and I'm getting to listen to this guy do this masterpiece, you know, every single day. Chief didn't take a lot of takes, man. Not a lot of takes. These guys went in and fucking kicked ass, right? Reggie Reg, like this, you know, hardcore producer, man, you know, ultra techie for the time, you know what I mean? Ultra connected to the technology for the time, right? And you know, very well spoken, like polite dude, you know what I mean? Real kind, nice guy. But you know, he gets up on there on those pads, and I'm in the next room listening to them load the shit. I'm, what the fuck? Where they get, and they put in shit, they put in Slick Rick's Indian story, adult story, you know, they put in the Indian shit, you know, oh my God, my fortress is impregnable. Anyway, man, you know, so I'm a little kid. I'm still going to middle school, right? So I got to wake up the next day for school. You know, I know Rudy was a guy who worked with my father at the company IBM, right? You know, they were doing computers, and my dad worked there. You know, he hated it, you know, but at the time, you know, he had already found a way to build his own business. It was very small. You know, we were scraping by, and these guys paid for their masters. You know, they came in and they paid for the time, you know, so they paid my father for all this. It's not like he owns the they own the masters. It was the age group thing that was the crazy part, right? Because I'm in fucking 7th, 8th grade, right? I'm in 8th grade, right? And, you know, when they started this, I was still in school before summer hit, right? You know, so I'm going to school with other kids my age, 12 and 13, that are just hip-hop junkies, right? Because this is like Trenton, New Jersey area where everybody, Poor Righteous Teachers a couple miles away, you know, everybody that you know, I was friends with, I cared about, was deep into this stuff. And I had these guys doing this shit at my house. And not only that shit was going to premiere on WPRB 103.3, the radio station we were all fans of, right? Like, we're little kids, we're fans. And these dudes are recording this shit at hot spots where I live, you know. So imagine how that felt, being in a cypher with other little kids my age and stuff, all into hip hop, and I got Chief doing the shit at my crib. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, he was like a star to us. Record drops, you know, it's out at the turntable, like I told you. That's like the Scoop at Ace Records, at the turntable in Willingboro, a couple other select spots. Your record was there. You might as well have been goddamn Flavor Flav. You know what I mean? And so Chief's shit comes out on both this vinyl. It also comes out on a cassette tape, which I had a couple of. Courtesy copies right in the beginning. I got to bring them to school with me. I brought those fucking cassettes with me. The first day, I think it was going into 8th grade, the first day of school, I had 2 of those copies of this tape with me going to school. And the crazy shit is, might have been 9th grade, and the crazy shit is I had that, but then I also had things like Breaking Atoms. It was right alongside all those other important hip-hop tapes that became classics, you know, this tape and the other. If you look at my 7 Immortals Thursday Night Live music video on this channel, 7 Immortals Thursday Night Live music video, if you look at that, you're gonna see me and Chief connected years later, you know, maybe 2009. And you know, you look at his career, and he goes by Papa Chief now. He's got a lot of other great stuff that he's done since this time, right? Most important to me personally, just a personal, you know, level, is the Soldiers of Fortune project, because they also recorded that at my father's place with like 88, another MC, couple other people were involved in various Chief projects. I mean, because he's coming from the Willingboro area, and you got other producers from Willingboro, from that area, because at the time there were different hubs. There was like a little hub in Willingboro, hip hop. There was a big Trenton hub where Ewing we were at kind of circulated that Trenton hub, and then there was a North Jersey hub where you got things like even more visible, like Flavor Unit, 45 King, all that kind of stuff.
The soldiers of fortune rising from the cipher. I'm the nucleus. Reggie Reg produces this. If you feel like I'm,
you know, they were using samples, some of which Reggie, you know, I know his pockets for samples are deep. When back before Bob James Nautilus had been abused, and he used it for no feedback in this, in the way he used it with the UFO sample and you know, the other little throw-ins and stuff, it was just absolutely creme de la creme hip hop.
back in the days I used to rock my name on my block. I walk the streets with scarred and knuckles. But them days of using my pencil, I'm gonna use my tongue now. 99 out of 100 got stung. Wow.
it was among maybe about a dozen projects that really just touched my heart in a way that I could never even describe to you because of that personal connection to the recordings of it. And because of how classic the shit... Just because of how dope it sounds 30 years later, you know, 30 years later. If you're not aware of who Courageous Chief or Papa Chief is, you fucking should be if you care about New Jersey hip-hop. If you just write it off because he wasn't so visibly and directly connected to those other people that you think about, the artists you think about when you think about Jersey hip-hop, he went on to work with Old Dirty Bastard, you know, a bunch of other affiliates of Wu-Tang, and, you know, of course, you got G, help with the Genius and 36 Chamber career. You know, these guys were all very, 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 very closely and tightly woven into the knitting of early 90s hip-hop that we all love. It just so happens that, you know, in the place, the region, the time period, the label promotion, some people didn't get a chance to see them or see their involvement. But Chief was spitting. Reggie Reg was producing. Cam, Zulu, Tony D, G, all these guys, you know, they were just absolute such powerhouses behind East Coast hip-hop and the whole movement. Sometimes it gets forgotten, unless you were in that region where you were listening to WPRB 103.3 back in the day. Courageous Chief, Warpath, not just because it was recorded at Hotspot Studio, but because of the quality of the record, how it holds up, the impact that it had then, the amount of times that they spun it again and again and again and again. You know, Chief's record, in my mind, is one of those centerpieces of that whole time period of my life. So when I see this record, when I hear this record, you know, it holds the same amount of real estate in my heart as like Main Source, Breaking Atoms, or anything else. It just didn't get the same widespread listenership as all these other things because of the way the record came about and from where, right? But if you haven't heard Courageous Chief Warpath, this is not some ego trip. This guy is fucking disgusting. Disgusting with bars and disgusting with delivery. Reggie Reg's impeccable cleanliness with that production that just, you know, it hits, but it's just right on time, and everything is just crispy clean as it could be coming from one of those old machines, man. You know, the energy that comes forth in this little project here, if you haven't heard it, man, you're gonna come back and you're gonna thank me, like, thank you, Shawn Love. You know, and what else can you give me? You know what I mean? I highly recommend Courageous Chief Warpath. I know Dope Folks had, you know, the label had some relationship where they had re-released it in some capacity some years back. I don't know if those copies are still available. I've got the OG that I got handed to me from Rudy himself, you know what I mean, and the cassettes that I got from Chief. You know, I still got my OG copies. If you don't got the OG copies, but you also haven't got the reissues, make some demands. Put it on a playlist. Get in your car, you know, roll up a Phillies blunt, even though they're hard to find nowadays and they're not very good for you. You know, roll up one anyway, you know, just for old time's sake. You know, and Chief one, you know, do it for me, do it for Chief, do it for hip hop. All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace.